Okay, I'm going to be tackling a couple of things here in this vid if anybody cares to watch it. And it will be why Common Core is a MacGuffin and many other things. The case against Common Core, done by some bald guy who made an entire channel about this and invokes things that have nothing to do with 2 plus 2 equals 4. If your argument about whether or not it's cold or hot outside has to do with the consequences of whether or not you get to mine coal, you're not allowed to predict the weather because you have an overriding drive that is contradicting reality. For the same reason that if you're Al Gore, I'm not going to trust you to tell me what the temperature is outside because your argumentum is going to be all over the place. I just need to know what the temperature is. I can replace Al Gore and Gacy with something simple. It's called a thermometer. It doesn't argue or talk back, and if it's wrong, I replace it with one that isn't wrong because I need to know what the damn temperature is. No, it's not global warming. It's what temperature is it right now. Common Core has a use. It actually means something. I'm going to do a demonstration of Common Core and Uncommon Core, as I'm going to call it. Or how about multi-core? How about computer core? So here we go with the next stage. Sinister Common Core conspiracy unmasked as a pathetically earnest effort to help kids. Common Core is actually about something specific. It has a specific history, a specific reasoning, and it's actually culminating together in the past, by the way, from lots of different disciplines, trying to figure out a way to get people to learn how to do things more effectively, to increase the likelihood of a person being able to do something, not just passing with a D grade, which is allowed in a lot of schools, but really mastering something. That was the entire purpose of it. But you can decide it's otherwise because you've been told a conspiracy theory. Despite all the conspiracy theories, it's actually just boring. I'm going to bore you to death. What is the antithesis of learning? Now I'm asking. That. I was made to do math drills when I was a kid because I could do something the teacher didn't like, so she gave me extra homework as punishment. That's not how you teach kids. That's how you make them hate learning. And you may have noticed, I'm not going to say her name. I win. Stop Common Core. Why? Well, there's a reason for it. I'll give it to you in a minute. And it's summed up very, very well by someone who will make you angry. But I want you to watch this video. And I'd like to point out to the artist that did this, that's not how you abacus. Okay, now, and by the way, where are the apples? It shouldn't be little hunks of wood. Okay, here we go. This is a Common Core example on the left. Conventional addition or multiplication, on the right. Addition and multiplication are related to each other, by the way. And in the middle is something I do automatically. I want to point out a couple of things. When I see the number 35, you could, on the left, dismantle 35 as 30 and 5. But we're doing a multiplication example, so as you see from the middle, I turn 35 into 7 and 5. 7 and 5 multiplied by each other is 35. You also notice that I bust it down to prime numbers on the right. 12 is 3 times 2 times 2. More accurately, 12 is just 3 4 times over, and 4 chops up into 2's. So all those can be multiplied. And the rule is you can multiply them in any order you want to if it makes it easier. Okay? You may have noticed what I'm doing is I'm dismantling a number into, what are they? Okay. Now I'm using, I like using prime numbers. Not because I like prime numbers. I detest them for various reasons. But you can't go any smaller than a prime number. You can't divide it more than that unless you want to make fractions. And to make sure we know this, if it's 5 times 6, that's 30. So 5 more is 35. Now that's the mental check I do because 7 is very confusing to me. Now, below that, because we're just multiplying them by each other, you're looking at the same screen I am, I hope. You can see that from the pixels. I can also just organize them in a different order. Now, what does this accomplish? Well, it makes it easier for me to multiply. Me multiplying a number by 35 is a pain in the rump. I like round numbers, or at least numbers that don't involve harder to multiply groupings. Above or below 5, just a small amount, makes it much more difficult for me mentally. This is something I recognize in myself. So the next stage I do is I arrange them differently. So I take the 2 hardest numbers to work with and make them into something simpler. 3 and 7 multiplied by each other is 21. And then the leftover numbers I have to multiply by each other become 20. Now, all of a sudden, I can just ignore it being 20, and it's just 2 times 21, which is 42, and then add the 0 back in, and I get 420. I do find it ironic that the Common Core video used 420 as the answer, because that is actually the answer. Now, what are they doing on the left? Now, some of you may have learned Common Core without knowing it, because this is a Common Core methodology. They're calling an area map method or something else. It doesn't matter what it is. 35 times 12 has to be dismantled in a similar way. You can have 2 times 35, that's 70. That's what's done on the right there. And you can take 1 times 350, 35, I've already done it, and it's 350. And then you add them together and you get 420. That's what's done on the right. But what is actually happening? The other method that I was taught to do, and this was the methodology from the 1970s through 80s, was you would take 2 times 5 and make 10. And 2 times 3 and make 6, and that would make it 70. And then you do 1 times 35, or 1 times 5 and make 5. And you make 1 times 3, and that's 30, so that's 35. And then you'd have to do it the other way around. And it got really complicated. And it didn't make any sense to me. But the method I use in the middle, where I tear it apart so I can make it easier equation, it is the equivalent. That number, 35 times 12, is the same as 20 times 21. It is the same problem, it just looks different. Now, I'd like to remind anybody who's watching that doing this rip down is very, very similar to the way that it's done in binary in a computer. Now, have I made this easier for anybody? No. But when you do subtraction the way you do and the way I do it, if I'm trying to, let's say I'm subtracting 12 from 35, well, I think 10 from 30 is 20, and 2 and 5 are differential by 3, so let's say 23. Now I'm guessing because I'm not actually doing the math in my head, I'm just instinctively doing it. So 23 added on, that's the wrong answer, because I end up with the right number on the right side, but I end up, no, actually it is 23, isn't it? I approximate one up and one down, or one closest to the other, see if I get a number that's rational, and that's it. Now, I do these things all at the same time in my head. That's how my brain works. My brain will take apart the numbers 35 and 12 and do this before I've even started writing down on the paper. And I've been doing this with my head since I was 7. So, you can have Common Core, old school method, or you could have me teaching people how to dismantle numbers. There's literally, none of these are wrong. None of them are even more complicated than the other, because, again, the method I used, which is in the middle, takes me 3 seconds. How long did it take you? Now I'm going to bring up this next thing. The real reason people became politically motivated about math. Common Core could be the antidote for creationism. This is a very intentionally in-your-face video. People politicize something involving kids learning math, and the Common Core refers to making sure everybody in the country has a common reference point for information. An objective, static, unchanging reality reference point that you can't fudge or argue. 1 plus 1 equals 2. 2 plus 2 does not equal 5. And not liking that answer isn't acceptable anymore. Your opinion is not relevant. Facts are more relevant. That is the reason this became a political hot button. Thanks for watching. Have a good day, and I wish everyone a great deal of luck with that.